Yep.
Okay, what else?
We got the dientamoeba, and that's associated with both constipation and diarrhea.
Okay.
So,
And where do people get that?
they can get it from water sources and hospitals, very common.
Oh,
and
great.
People also experience intense itching in the anus area and loose stools as well.
So that, I mean, hospitals are not a good place to go. You can pick up all kinds of things in hospitals.
Staph.
Because the people who are there are generally pretty sick.
Exactly.
So, okay. And what else?
Cryptosporidium,
Cryptosporidium, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And those are from water supplies as well. And they actually have more of a significant threat to people who have immune problems, HIV and AIDS.
Autoimmune disorders too, like rheumatoid arthritis or scleroderma.
Exactly.
Really?
Those.
So these are popular. We've got 5 of them to really, concern ourselves with in the United States.
And
even
there are
though
hundreds.
There are
I mean, I
hundreds.
don't want anyone to think that there's just these 5. There are hundreds, but those are the most common.
Well, and I would think too, if you traveled and you have this kind of virgin soil, and you go to a third world country, it's like you don't have the recognition factor, what the antibodies. Your body wouldn't make the antibodies to recognize certain parasites or even bacterias,
Right.
which is why so many people do get sick if they're compromised when they do travel. And you have to make sure you really build yourself up. Okay, tell me about parasitic worms, pinworms, roundworms, and tapeworms.
Well, they're generally contracted by, water sources again. Water sources, contaminated water sources, big problem, not just in
So could
developing
people be
countries.
getting this from their tap water in Chicago?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, the best thing to do is to do bottled, reverse osmosis.
What about filtered?
Filters takes out the heavy metals and the sediment, but not microorganisms. Absolutely not. So
Oh my goodness.
I mean, take another step and boil it, and then put it through the filter.
Okay, this is scary information, you guys. So you're drinking tap water in Chicago. A filter will not get rid of your microorganisms like your parasites.
Right. And then there's also, you can get them from undercooked meat and fish, and raw fruits and vegetables if they're mishandled, not washed thoroughly.
So fruits and vegetables, so all foods, if they're contaminated with water, could create a problem.
Right.
End of story.
And that's not just in developing countries, that's here as well. So.
Wow, okay. In 1995, a West Coast town found that even with deworming, which they offered free of charge from the local health department on the kids, the incidence of whipworm infestation still increased by 70% in 2 years in their children.
Yeah.
Even though they gave free worming to the kids in their county, in their area.
Right.
So what that means is what?
It's still on the rise.
So these little guys are really procreating like crazy.
Yes, the infestations or the infections. I think the people don't realize how easy it is to get them.
How do you get them? How many ways can we get parasites? Name 5.
Okay. Hand contact.
Okay.
Your food and water contamination from pets, from
walking barefoot, I heard.
Yes, walking barefoot, you can get it too. Hand and mouth contact.
Wow.
Animals.
Wow. And we import 30 billion tons of food every year from third world or from
developing countries.
So the further away, I guess, these foods are from our source, the more contamination we have to be fearful of, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
This is not good. So we're in trouble, and we import a lot of food, and people don't have the sanitary practices that we do in this country, so we have to be suspect of what we're actually dealing with here.
Yeah, people don't wash their hands as readily as Americans do. I mean, for the most part, Americans are cleaner than most of those countries, and we have certain laws and guidelines, whereas those countries don't.
Okay.
So if they're handling our food products and they don't wash their hands, probably because they just don't have, antibacterial soap and water readily available to them.
Or soap, for that matter.
Right.
How many people have parasites in this country?
I'm sure...
Or in the world? The world.
Billions. I'm sure everyone has some sort of infestation, but if they're, like I said before, if they're moving properly and their body's functioning well, they will get rid of them. But most people don't. Most people don't eat the live foods. Most people don't move 2 to 3 feet a day, and I'm talking about stool.
Most people are constipated that you
Yes.
see.
Yes.
So it says here that 25% of the people in the world that are infected actually present with symptoms, and the rest of them may not be.
Right. So you're safe to bet that 75% of the people that have these infestations are asymptomatic.
Wow.
So they go to a doctor, they have, a pain here
Problem.
and problem here, and the doctor has no idea what to attribute it
What's
to.
wrong? Okay. And people who live in really warm, humid climates have a greater propensity towards developing infections from parasites too, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so what can people do if they have a parasitic infection? Because we're starting to run out of time.
Okay, well, the first one is they can do a comprehensive stool analysis, and that's testing for everything that we just discussed.
All the different parasites and the amoebas and
Right,
bacteria.
and even candida,
Okay.
yeast, yeast overgrowth. Those tests tend to be very costly. So if
Okay.
you can't afford them, the next best thing to do is basically to have a colonic and to have your
Okay.
therapist assess, from what comes out of the view tube and
So
tell
you
you
can
what's
tell
going
by
on.
the look of the feces if a person does have some activity going on
Exactly.
in their intestines.
And also you do have a consultation with them and find out what their symptoms are and maybe help assess that way as well.
Well, real quick, because I know people will wish to know this. I mean, I know that a comprehensive stool analysis will run $200-300 or something
I
like
think
that.
it's a little more than that.
A little more than that, okay. And a colonic runs approximately 50-something.
Right.
So it's a big difference.
It
So
is.
if people can't afford to do the CDSAs, then think about doing the colonics to assess, Ugh.
Right.
That's good to know. Okay. Also, what else should people do to keep their parasitic problems down?
Well, make sure that they cook especially their meat and fish thoroughly.
Okay.
And also their fruits and vegetables. If they want a raw fruit diet, then they make sure that they clean those fruits and
wash
vegetables
them.
very well in warm soapy water. And let
Okay.
them soak for a while because there's a lot of wax coating put on produce that keeps you from
Seals those little parasites in there.
Exactly.
They're preserved. It's
Exactly.
good. Okay. What about taking probiotics? Do these compete against these little microbes and parasites?
Yes, they do. And probiotics being such as like lactobacillus and acidophilus, in case people don't know what probiotics are.
This is the opposite of antibiotics.
They're the good bacteria that is found in your intestinal tract.
Okay.
And we should be creating our own, but most of us don't because we're missing the hydrochloric acid, which you spoke of earlier.
Okay.
Drink too much coffee, do too many antibiotics, that gets rid of your good bacteria, as well as vitamins and minerals and a live food diet.
Okay. Tell me, we've got a second here, Chris.
Yeah.
Tell me about colonics. How can they help with parasites and bacterial overgrowth that the body's producing from the parasites? How do they assist people if they utilize this? We've got to wrap it up. So.
Okay, well, just your muscle function. The colonics help strengthen the colon walls. And also, that would allow you to rid of them easier on your own when you're not being assisted by the colonic. But
And it
also,
helps to flush.
exactly.
Right?
And it just pulls everything out, including those little buggers.
Good. As they hang on, they get flushed down the tubes. Well, thank you for joining us, Christina. It was
you.
wonderful information.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah Arneson bringing you Health Quest. Please join us next week. We'll be talking about Panchakarma and Ayurvedic medicine, which is fascinating. And until then, please take very good care of your health. Good night.